Ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages, how's it going?
How's it going, people of all ages?
So, what you up to tonight, Barry?
You know what? I just came in from watering the garden profusely. And
Cool.
now it's time for, yeah, and now it's, comic related. And now it's time for the show to go on. How do I sound to you? I haven't even checked our
Really
sound.
loud, really loud.
I'm really loud?
Oh yeah,
Is your volume up a whole lot?
maybe. Yeah, it was.
I was like, I hope so, man. It's like, I don't think I just looked this thing back up. And, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I'm working on some pages. I was actually, I follow Color with Kurt, the comic book artist, right?
Okay.
And he or comic book colorist, and he shared last week a page he was just doing for a friend, and gave us both the black and white, and then we shared it. We shared his flatting. So I'm on his Discord and all that stuff. So I was just going through that as a funsy thing, and was doing that earlier today. And if you want to see what I have for that, now the art's not mine. The coloring is mine.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So here, I could send this to you, but I'm just gonna hold it up to the screen. Let's see if we
Here, let me profile you here. Nope, wrong one.
Wrong profile.
There we go. Oh yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So I went with the painterly style.
Yeah.
Now, Batman and the other chick haven't been colored. I'm not even sure who that. I think is that Kane?
Yeah, Cassandra Cain back there.
Yeah. Okay.
That's her new costume.
Yep.
Orphan, I think, is her current nom de guerre. Yeah.
Fair enough. And so I've colored Damien, and I've colored old Batgal. So, yeah. So it's pretty fun. So I'm going to share that on the Discord hopefully tomorrow morning before he goes live and get feedback from him.
Cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. So how about yourself, man? How's school going?
Oh man, it is. It's okay. We're wrapping up semester.
Yeah. Is that is that a little bit of a cram at all, or is it just...
Yeah. Well, a bit. I mean, the astronomy was on a full term, so it's not quite as intense as it could have been. Astronomy. Yep.
So I did not know you were taking astronomy. That's interesting.
Yep. I had to have a science class with a lab, so
I'm not sure that's science.
Okay.
Just messing around. I like to. There's an old gag, that astronomy and astrology.
Oh, okay. I see what you're getting at with that.
Yeah.
See, well, I thought, since I had a lab class, that I'd have a lot of, hanging out in the backyard, watching planets and stuff. And there was exactly none of that.
Really?
It was all of the labs are on simulators. And so we get to watch, fake stars and planets orbit fake systems.
That's kind of not fun at all.
And record all the mathematics involved in it. It wasn't like, hey, track the movement of Mars through the summer or something.
Yeah. Chart your way across the ocean from where your position is. I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go. Get down to your astrolabe and make your way to Kansas. Nothing like that.
That's too bad. You should voice your disappointment. What if you were cast to sea in the middle of Nebraska, and you had to make your way. You should bring this up to your teacher. I think your professor.
Yeah, it's probably I don't know, man. It was So I when I first took the class, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna spend. I took 2 classes this summer term. One was global comics, which was a cram. It was a whole semester's worth of stuff in 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It was intense. It was intense.
And you said that was over comics?
Global comics. So it was like Bondine and Fumetti, Italian Fumetti, and I gotta read awesome. Oh, yeah, it was a really good class.
Yeah.
But it was like reading like 2 giant trades or graphic novels every week. So it was like 600 pages of comics a week. Yeah. It was an intense class.
that is when
plus,
comics become intense.
I had to write a term paper on a foreign comicer that wasn't covered in the material. So I wrote like pretty involved, but it could only be 3 pages. So I wrote a pretty involved little biography of Udzero and Goscinny behind Asterix.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
It was really
not in
fun.
The content.
It was real cool.
I was gonna say like Mobius or something. That'd be
Mobius would have been cool, but that's not who I picked.
No. What's the name? The fellow who did Asterix and Obelix.
Well, he just passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Udzero did.
Yeah.
I mean, Goscinny passed away in the 70s, but Udzero just passed away a couple years ago. So, but it was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Well, that's cool, man. I can see how that can be quite.
So,
when comics become intense without politics. That's kind of different.
Man. When I signed up for the summer semester, I really thought what I'd get to do is, I'd get to spend at least half the summer just hanging out in the backyard, drinking beer, watching the stars, and that is not what happened.
Yeah, that would have been chill, man. Okay, so I'm gonna chart my way across Nebraska.
Yep.
In case there was a land flooding, and then read some comics with a nice drink in my hand. And there you go. But no. Well, that's a bummer, but also cool, I guess, in its own way. Are you working on anything tonight then?
Tonight, I'm still working on colorizing, slowly getting back into it. The Forces Archive.
Yeah.
Although sometime I need to get over to your place because Tall finished up the all of the pages for I've Been to Hell.
Oh, nice.
So I've got inks on all 24 pages, or 28, maybe 28. And I need to get over there and scan them in so I can start working at it.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
anytime,
I'm pretty stoked about it, man. I was the ones I'd scanned before, I didn't get a good DPI on them. I tried scanning them in as TIFF files, so I could do it in one file. And it was okay, except that
the TIFFs are horrible.
Well, the problem was I didn't have the it's set to grayscale, so it didn't have any of the gradations in there. And I thought it would take out the blue line, but it left too many artifacts behind. So I'm gonna have to scan them color.
You can clean that up, but if you're not used to, I don't know what program do you usually use to color?
I tried cleaning them up in both. Well, I mean that was the problem, is there wasn't. It was just a ton. So I'm gonna go through and scan them as color images. And then I'll go ahead and remove the color. It'll be easier to do that than to try to remove all the little specks.
Yeah, fair enough. There's I think you probably use
mostly Clip Studio. Honestly.
Yeah, Clip Studio. I think I know I was familiar with the way how to do it in Photoshop, but I'm not sure about. I know there's a way in Clip Studio, but I'm not familiar with it. I'd have to look it up. But that's cool, man. Yeah, that's good.
It's gonna be dynamite, man. Dynamite.
Well, there we go. Where the shit's my...
So what you been working on, man?
Well, a page that doesn't seem to be Where the hell did it go? Oh, I'm still working on the X Comics stuff. I don't know. Every month I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get at least 2 days a week to work 8 hours on these things every week, and every week for the last month and a half, that hasn't been able to happen because of work or something else that's popped up. So I'm going to see if I can do a live or die month for the month of August and try to get it done before the end of August. So
that would be great.
That would be great. We got Neo Star Productions. What's up, Neo Star?
Yeah, Neo, how's it going, man? I've been pretty much off of not the internet, but off of YouTube for a couple of months. So I haven't seen a lot of folks out there in the world, but I'm glad to see you come by, Neo.
Other man stands before you. Very cool. So, yeah, dude. Are you gonna get to your show this week then?
Yeah, next week. Next week.
Okay.
I'm the 4th of August, and I'm moving it to Wednesdays. Instead of Thursday, it's going to be on Wednesdays, and it's only going to be an hour. So,
dang,
I'm paring it back a little bit from the big tour thing.
What's the whole? Is there a reason for this? It's an interesting topic.
I am moving to. Next week's show is going to be the culture of Gene Yang, who's a comic artist and writer. He did American Born Chinese, and he did Boxers and Saints, and he did The Shadow Hero, and he did New Superman. That came out.
Oh yeah. I love his art and stuff, and I love it, but New Superman, hey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the premise is that he's this Chinese kid that absorbed some of the New 52 Superman's essence when he died, and so which I just know the premise. I haven't read it yet, so I'm excited to give that a look-see at some point. But Boxers and Saints is such a good book.
Really?
And so I've got. Oh my goodness!
Tell me about that.
It's a 2-part book. The one part is called Boxers, and it's about a Chinese kid who gets wrapped up in the Boxer Rebellion in late imperial China in the 1890s. Yeah.
That's
it's really cool. And it's kind of a tragedy about culture and history,
class,
and it's a little bit about class, but it's mostly about what it means to be a nation state and how that relates to stuff.
You said it's in China?
Yeah, in China. Yeah,
that'd be tough. That's pretty intense.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then the other half is called Saints, and it's about a Chinese girl who is doesn't feel like she has any place in the Chinese hierarchy. That there just isn't a home for her there, and she's castigated and by her family, and she's never even given a proper name. She's just called Four Girl. She's the fourth girl. Yeah. And her mom had miscarriages, and so she's the only one that lived. And and she has had no male siblings and all that kind of stuff. So
that's intense. That's some very heavy.
Super heavy.
Just the underlying.
Oh yeah. And so then she ends up becoming a Christian in late imperial China, and like leaving her family behind and going to live with a religious community, and becomes Catholic. And then one of the things that the Boxers were after was to wipe out all Western influence, and that included people that had converted to different kinds of Christianity.
Yeah.
So the two stories intersect. You can read in any order, but the two stories intersect, and it's really really intense. Really intense. I loved it. It made me weep several times.
Yeah, dude, that is pretty heavy, man.
It's
a comic book, or is it graphic novel?
It's thick. It's thick.
Okay.
altogether, it's probably like 500 pages.
Oh wow, it's a graphic novel
between the two volumes. It comes in two volumes.
Okay.
So Boxers is one volume, and Saints is the second volume.
Man.
So, yeah, it's really good. I would suggest actually the library has it for checkout, so you ought to walk your happy butt over there and check it out.
I could do that.
Do you even have a library card?
I'm trying to stay from as much heavy stuff as I can lately. Just because, like, I mean, like, call me a wimp, but it takes a lot of. Like, I probably will get to reading it, but I want to. It takes a lot of energy, you know. Yeah. So.
Well, and Yang himself is Chinese Catholic. He's an American. He was born here. I think his parents were born here, but he is Chinese Catholic. So
the only
it's a personal story that isn't personal, right? It's not like his biography, or of course, but I mean he treats both sides super fairly. It doesn't feel like it's a biased thing at all.
Right.
So it's just a really good study. And so me and Matt Krotz and number one Marmaduke fan are meeting next week and I'll be talking over several of his pieces.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man. Yeah, like that's.
I got the brain trust in on it.
There you go. Yeah, that's something like honestly, with as I think, especially like in Western culture these days, Japanese pop culture or even history is more influential and more known in pop culture or comics, right? You know, with the whole there's been a lot of mangas and animes done of, like, you know, the Christian underground that happened in Japan, right? I mean, that's what all the Samurai Champloo, that's what that's about. And it's interesting. I besides the Boxer Rebellion, that's like, you know, and I learned about that a long time ago back in high school days. So I haven't had much to do with that history. So yeah, back in college, back in high school is when I was into it, and I'm with you, man. That's
so yeah, it's super good. I highly recommend. I don't know that I can recommend his stuff that I've read highly enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it sounds pretty.
Well, and then his one of his other books, American Born Chinese, it's not as heavy toned, but it's just as heavy themed.
Good.
And it's about
that theme running through there.
And it's crazy. But then another one of his works that I really like is called The Shadow Hero, and it is a golden age comic. It is a prequel to the Green Turtle strip that ran for a few issues back in the 40s, and it is just it's super golden
What's
age.
About? Give me the premise. Give me a shake. Give me a shake.
So the premise of The Shadow Hero is that there is a kid from Chinatown, and his parents are both immigrants to America, and dad loves being there, and mom feels like she was let down coming to America. And they have a kid, and he grows up, and his dad ends up getting killed by the Chinese mob, and
would you say it's pretty fast paced and actiony?
Yeah, it's very actiony, but it's also like got a lot of humor in it. And so anyway, the guy gets killed by the mob. Dad gets killed by the mob, and then the kid tries to kind of avenge his father, and also like protect the community from the Tongs, which are been running a protection racket on the whole thing. Nice, and in the middle of it all, there's these subtle nods to Chinese myth and legend that work in the origin of the hero.
The Tongs are just a classic, you know, gangsters, right? Throughout San Francisco, Chinatown, and all that stuff. So back in the day, they were very. I don't know if they were triad. They were dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, And there was in San Francisco, and it takes place in a fictionalized San Francisco too.
Right.
San Francisco.
Well, San Francisco Chinatown is very, very real. But
oh yeah. But it was fun, super fun. I really liked it.
Work. Video about Superman smashed.
Yeah, I actually really, really liked this video. I have not read Superman Smashes the Klan yet, but I would really be interested in reading it, especially given how Yang's treatment of the Shadow Hero was, because it was very different. And because what part of what it was is the guy who created the Green Turtle back in the 40s was a Chinese American.
Right.
And the rumor in the business is that he wanted to make the Green Turtle a Chinese American superhero. And the publisher was like, that'll never fly. But we want you to set it in China, helping out the rebels against the Japanese. And he's just like, okay. Yeah. So the Green Turtle in the comics, you never saw his face. So he could be whatever. And so Yang just, put the hammer down to the ground, and it's like, yes, this kid's as Chinese as an American Chineseman can get.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I really think that was a great series, and they also have that at the library. That's where I got it from.
I'm surprised I'm surprised he doesn't refer to it as a jade turtle or something.
Yeah, there's that's in there.
There's
cool. not directly, because there's a charm that goes along with the turtle thing. Yeah.
That's nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's fascinating, cool. Man. So is he the writer plus is he the creator of these projects, or is he just the artist?
Well, no. See, he wrote and drew Boxers and Saints and American Born Chinese.
Okay.
He had a different artist come on for the Green Turtle.
Okay.
For the Shadow Warrior Hero, the Shadow Hero. Blech. But all three of those projects are published in trade form by First Second Productions. Or
First Second Productions?
First Second, yeah.
Are they a subsidiary of somebody, or?
No, I don't. Not that I'm aware of.
They're their own publishing.
I think they're their own thing. I think they're a publishing house. From looking at some of their other stuff, I think they're a publishing house that takes indie projects and then packages them for like Scholastic or something like that. So I don't know if they're a branch of Scholastic, but I think they distribute through them, right?
Okay. Right.
But anyway, so somebody else drew the Shadow Hero, and then the other stuff I think he's done has just all been him as a writer.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like he did like the new Superman. He didn't do the art on that. He didn't. I don't think did the art for Superman Smashes the Klan.
Okay.
So stuff like that too. And one thing to go back to, one of the things Neo said is, I think nobody's without their biases, right?
Well, yeah, you can't help it. That's how you raise.
But of course, and it's how you raise. It's also how you think, because we all.
It's not. Yeah, your bias isn't like you're not trying to be biased. It's just incorporating all the information from how you've grown.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it is.
Yeah, and we build frameworks that we work our head through all the time.
Yeah. It's the data that it's how you're familiar with the world that and that carries along with it a bias.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's trying to be, on the average, no one's trying to be evil or wrong through their bias. It's just a reference of information that we possess. Exactly.
And so we have all these like shorthands and concepts that are put in there. And I think that's one of those things where the question comes to, and I think that touches on a big point here, is, are we allowing our biases to overly color our art? Right.
Yeah. When that's the fun dichotomy I find of branching out into to new things. I think that's something that keeps creators of whatever field, maybe inspired a bit, because to do your own thing. It's like painting, for example, right? If you're using your favorite brush all the time and you're just making stuff that's accepted, right? It's lovely art that people love. That's fine, but how enriching is it for the painter, right? You sometimes want to grab a brush that you're not familiar with, or however it might be, and just learn and go to town and get more, indulge and delve into that. And anytime you can find something that's just as rich, and you don't know much about, you often have more respect for it because it's kind of new, a little more, it's like a new taste of pie or whatever, That's how I see it. Could be wrong. And Matt muted himself, as he should. I wish Matt would mute himself more often.
Sorry, I was finishing supper.
It's okay. I was like, well, am I wrong? But no. And now I made myself think about pie, and I love pie. But anyhow, yeah. Bringing new things into our lives that way, especially works or creations. I know it happens where our bias will have influence in these things, but I hope that for most creators that do this and do branch out to a different where there's information and there's a whole history or whatever it might be, that they just surrender themselves to it a little bit and just go for it and really respect it, because it makes whatever field you're in, makes it just much more fun and much more enriching.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. And I think part of it too, I mean, like, a big part of what art is the idea that we're trying to express. But I think the real point is to express something back to society, but and to really focus on the good, the true, and the beautiful, right?
Yeah, and I think also when you're doing that, you're expressing it back, like to have a true expression. To do that, I think hopefully when someone's doing it, it's your expression back. Hopefully you're being honest with yourself and just doing it as you would. You can't worry too much about it, because if you care about it, and it's worth putting art into and putting it out there. Hopefully you're really giving it a fair shake. As you would. It's an interesting subject. It's fun. It's it's something that's almost something that's going taboo with the world today. But
well, I mean, that one of the big pushes in the world is to even question whether something can be considered good, true, and beautiful. I mean, like the audacity that you could speak for the world about something, right, about what beauty is. No, man, sunrises are beautiful. I don't care who you are.
Right. Well, it's what my frame mind is, again, to reference Japan and Western, let's say United States, is there's been so much exchange of culture the last 50 plus years.
Oh yeah,
both have done their own renditions on music, anything from movies to music to books, to whatever, food, plant, gardening, and nowadays you can't, if you're if you're not of that culture or skin color, people will, it can get pretty funny and dicey if it gets into the pop media, and they have their way with it, especially if they can build a story off that and make a name off of stripping someone down who's not associated with that heritage.
All right, now I'm going to try something to see if my computer's got the stones to pull it off.
Yeah, try to draw or color real time.
I'm going to try to color because I want to, make the most of this time that I got here, not just yak.
Right.
That's what Wednesdays are going to be about.
And
part of that is I've got one of my reasons I'm moving to Wednesday is Thursday is one of my out of town days, and so it was always a race to get back into town by the time the show started.
What time is your show going to be then? At 9 o'clock?
7 o'clock still, yeah. And 7 o'clock Mountain. And so when I decided to go through the with start the show again, about the same time, Tyler Carpenter, not Carpenter. I can't remember his last name. Draw and Talk guy.
I don't follow him.
Yeah. He has a big show when we have some fans in common who will watch. We were watching my show Thursday, watching his show Wednesday. Well, he's not doing a Wednesday show routinely anymore. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have a Wednesday show.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you can cover that.
Indeed.
That's cool. Works out, makes more sense, especially if it's, you're not racing and such.
Yeah. I'm already in town on Wednesdays. I've got a pretty, I'm usually wrapped up. It is Carpenter. Okay. Neil says it is Carpenter, and he's mocking me. That little smiley face. Well, there you go, Neo. Make me look like a fool. I probably had it coming, though, so I can't be too mad.
There you go. Banter is always good.
So, see. Okay. But yeah, I'm just over halfway through with all of the pages for that story. Sorry, my brain's skipping on me for a second.
That story.
There we go.
Yes.
For the Waiting for Moles story.
Oh.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and show off. This is Chris only art. Oh, hey. Ichthus showed up. Did somebody say Draw and Talk? Yes, I did. I'm stealing his time slot, Ichthus. So, but yep. I'm we're just here chatting about making comics. How is the oh man, I can't believe. He's got a Gator comic, JRPG is the title of it, I think. Which stands for Juvenile Pro Wrestling Gators, I think. Something like that.
That's awesome.
Pro Wrestling Gators.
Wrestling?
I think that's what it's called. He'll have to correct us on that. So.
Hey, if it's not, that's pretty awesome. Maybe it should be.
Yeah. So, allow. Okay. Hey, there we are. There's the page.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that. So this page is all Chris. Was when we were back on this story back in 2006. That's when we were working on this one. I had a weekend where I was out of town, and it is Pro Wrestling Gators to make it more simple, easy to remember. I thought JRP taking the twist on JRPG made it hilarious, but anyway, yeah. So this was just all Chris art. He did pencils and inks on it. Normally, our pattern at the time was that he'd do pencils and I did the inks. But on this one, it's all together. So let's see here.
That's looking good.
Yeah, this is the last page before last. Interrogation in the broom closet.
Very nice.
And I think this is going to be the chapter cover. Let me go ahead and open up, see if I can't. I think it was this one. There we go. That's going to be the little teaser cover image right there. Greg just smacked him right in the face.
Who's giving it? Who's
it's a pasta lad.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So didn't I have a rule about not killing anyone? Sorry, I panicked. So to fill people in who might not know what's going on in that story, this story is that Chad and Greg and a couple of their friends have broken into Hero School because Greg's been given a mission by his guidance counselor from Villain School and the school principal to find out about the secret mole who's been leaking secrets about Villain School to the public. So Chad, the hero student, and Greg, the villain student, have broken into Hero School here, and so Greg freaks out and punches one of the other hero students, Pasta Lad, clean in the face. So that's what that's all about.
Good fun.
And there's Velma in the background for some reason.
Oh, you know.
So that one is it's going to be going up on Patreon. Actually, that one page was already up on Patreon. Then when I finish this last one, it's going to be going up on the Patreon, and then we'll be dropping a whole chapter on Friday. It's going to have like 7 pages. That's like this unit of the story or whatever.
Cool.
You guys can check out my amazing fill bucket skills. Forgot I have to add another layer. Whoopsie. That one. Anything for the broom closet. When in doubt, knock him out. Well, he is learning to be a supervillain, so a certain amount of supervillainy, I think, is probably appropriate.
Assertive, for sure. Been considering bringing this up, but have you caught wind of the new Masters of the Universe He-Man thing?
I mean, I've heard the whining and kvetching about it, but I don't care enough to have an opinion. So
yeah, I gathered that from the terminology of whining and kvetching.
You know,
because
me.
If it was something you liked, you would be very upset about it.
Well, not really, because I've given up all expectations of Hollywood producing anything of quality ever again, ever. Well, so like,
quality is one thing. Like, it depends on what you mean as quality, right?
Yeah.
It's it's not like it's made with a budget of pencils and ink.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm. Exactly, like when it comes to like production value in terms of
right, the production value is just fine.
They may have the best artists, they may have the best, flatters. They may have.
I wouldn't say that, but
well, I'm just saying they could.
It's not Japanese animation.
I wouldn't.
By any means.
I wouldn't be. I mean, you could. They could, and it wouldn't.
Or even Korean.
Or
I can keep going probably. Anyway. No, like, well, I wasn't like a huge He-Man fan, but I have like caught myself up to speed. And like, if there was any cartoon through the 80s all the way to the 2000s that you couldn't like, it'd be very like for a title called He-Man, it had the most equality or equal sense of the word, or of a show. And it's well, for God's sake, they did a spin-off of She-Ra, which was and just as good. And there was actually like for back then, we all know the shows were just mostly fodder and promotional material for the toys.
Right.
But He-Man actually like had like they included like valuable content lessons about morality and character. And it's hilarious how this one just like, if I had known like the Kevin Smith stuff, if I had known like there was some people who had gotten inside information and who outed him, and he just bashed them left and right, like denied. And later on comes out clearly, because the show's gonna come out, that he's lying through his teeth.
Well, and like I responded to somebody's video today. I can't remember who it was about it. Maybe in Razor Fist. Somebody was talking about, they couldn't believe that Kevin Smith had lied like he did. And that was the thing that really bugged him. And I was just like, he's been lying since Clerks 2. I don't see why you guys are all surprised.
He's had nothing since for a while. And he's just been kissing ass as much as he can to maintain some form of, relevance. And
maybe that's not fair. I mean, like,
no, it's completely fair.
Because, like, the dudes, nearly died and blah blah blah. So
what?
Blah,
like, that is completely separate. Like, how
he is like he's just been as far as I'm concerned, he's just been pissing on the fans since then.
Yes, he's been pissing on the fans. Like, he made a name and made a living in his whole niche that he carved out was that he's one of the fans, and it's been revealed the last 15 or whatever years that's complete bullshit. And he did that himself. And you want to like talk about his heart attack work, dude? That's him. That's him. Like, that's his lifestyle. You don't have to like apologize for that, because if a guy wants to smoke and be unhealthy and be overweight, good for him that he's gotten thin. But bad on him that he's a shill and lies about everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so I back to He-Man. I didn't even know. I got wind that there was a new He-Man gonna come out on Netflix. I was like, okay, cool. And I wasn't even thinking, because they had done okay with the Castlevania stuff.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that people either were like, with the Castlevania stuff, what I heard was people's opinions were like either like it's okay, or they really dug it. So.
Yeah. It's not the whole woke message is not just reeled through it, which is the opposite with He-Man, which is hilarious, because if you watch, if we want to talk about for a moment, I'm sorry, but equality, they did the same thing to She-Ra, and then they do the same thing to He-Man. So once again, there's reason cast out the window.
Well, and here's something that I think is really not directly related to all of that.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. Just because a show is designed to sell toys doesn't mean it can't be decent. Agreed.
Well, yeah, no, it was like, if it went to like, I started watching He-Man. So you can watch all the episodes; they're all on YouTube. And so I would turn on, if I'm working on depending on what I'm working on, it can be a billion. I can be cooking or whatever else, or baking or working in the garden. I can turn on a billion different things, because YouTube's like that. And so if I'm working on something like comics or whatever like that, I don't want my attention to be really being taken by what's going on in the background, but I would turn on a He-Man or something like that if I'm baking or whatever. And there's actual decent writing. Like, the animation was, they made the animation work. The writing wasn't very, like, it was like, it was almost exactly how they made The Mandalorian. safe with decent stuff sprinkled through, not heavy by any means, not overly done or heavy in by any means of the word. But they did a good job with just a simple storyline and a simple good message, or whatever written through it. And it was smart, and it was mostly written well and within itself. And yeah, there was like, for example, like there were episodes about He-Man's mom, because she was a human astronaut pilot from Earth. And like she was competing with one episode. She's competing with Teela, who's the subject of many fanboys' ire, because not the character's fault, but God, people were dumb. But anyway, so they're competing because it's a spaceship or a flight or some sort of competition. I can't remember anymore right now, but so they're racing essentially, and his mom would crack ace, pilot, and she wins. And so that's a big thing about Teela, is she was very much a hothead, which is just fine. That was her character. But she learns she's always learning, she's getting humbled and stuff and learning, and then they parlay that into a message at the end of the show. And that was always part of the spiel or the shtick, but it's still a lot better than the shit that we get that's just completely dishonest and just riddled with politics.
Yeah, I said I didn't see it. I don't have Netflix. I don't,
Don't bother. Like I
just have no desire for like any of that kind of stuff. Well, and here's the funny thing. The funny thing I will say about the Netflix thing, I will say one, it's snarky. It's a snarky thing. Is that like, it's funny to see so many people like badmouth the show, who like swore that after Cuties became a thing that they cut out their Netflix. Right. So I'm just like, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, no, like that's honestly why I think I don't know if I ever suspended or canceled my accounts, because I caught wind of that after the fact.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I still clearly own it, so. But I don't. Sometimes I very much. I know I watch it. Like that's where I get a lot of my Asian content, right? Like there's a lot of good Korean films and Korean comedies on there that I enjoy, that I've looked on other streaming apps that they're just not on. So that's kind of tough. But Netflix brings those over, and they're a lot better. There is a lot better quality in those shows than there is anything else that American studios are putting out right now. That's for sure.
And like I said, I mean, like artistically, the show could be just fine. I don't know anything about it, and
yeah, I mean, like honestly, it wasn't. I mean, it's not on the par of most like anime by any means. It's like they still cut corners, and it's just hard to get on the same.
Well, that
level.
Seems on brand at least.
Yeah. Right? So, but yeah, I was hoping, I was excited, and then I remembered, oh yeah, what year I'm living in. So that was tough. Anyway, I look forward to the next childhood thing or decent thing that they bring back and ruin and completely bend and make equal.
See, and that's one of the things where I'm just kind of loving. I mean, not that that's happening. I mean, obviously people are going through it, and that's kind of obnoxious for them. And I'm not trying to be whatever about that, but like, I'm just watching the reruns, man. Like we picked up a Roku on sale at Christmas time, and
yeah,
I'm just going through, like, me and the oldest are sitting down watching Magnum PI, so it's like, yeah, you can have your, you just can't take Magnum PI from me, because I'm not even.
Just wait, Matt.
No. That's the thing is, I'm watching reruns. So like they made a new Magnum PI. I don't care. I'm never gonna watch it.
Yeah, I don't know who owned. think I borrowed somebody's Magnum PIs a few years back, or maybe I just downloaded them all. But back when I didn't have like any, I think I had like limited internet, and I didn't have like any other thing I watched. Right, and this is about 10 years back or whatever. I was watching a bunch of Friends. That's when I got caught up on Friends, because I didn't watch Friends until it was off the air, I think. And I got caught up on that and Magnum PI and a bunch of other stuff. Like, I couldn't remember if I had watched the ending of Magnum PI, and I had. I just forgot.
Well, and I've got my my boxed set of like the first 2 or 3 seasons or whatever it is of A-Team, and
oh yeah, A-Team.
So I watch what I want, and they can't stop me.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what's wonderful about it.
That's like, it's one of those things where, I'm sick of. I don't know. I want to say I'm sick of letting people dictate my interests, but it's just sort of like I just don't trust them with anything. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna see what the next like the people have been. Some of the fan communities I'm in are like, big or like Aquaman like fan groups or whatever, and people are just like, can you see the stills from the new thing? It looks great, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I love Aquaman. I think Momoa's casting was good. I think he really harnesses the character pretty well. I still don't care.
Yeah.
I just like, that's one of those things where it's like, that's you can't pay me to care about it. I'm just
Yeah, I think Aquaman's fun. I can't. It's like Shazam. They didn't go so far south with it that it really ruined any of the fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
To me it's fun, and there it lies. Yeah.
So I'm not. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just yeah, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and this is another good point on the bitch train a little bit, just because I'm bringing it up just because I think Neo has a good point. Bringing back beloved IPs from the 80s and 90s, just to make a watered down, insincere version of it. Yeah. And I think that's a big factor, is the sincerity of it.
Well, yeah, it's dishonest.
So one of the premises I was hearing about of the first half of the season is that Prince Adam is killed, right?
Right.
And so then Teela, being the war chieftain, has to like rise to a position of prominence.
Right.
See that the defending the realm and justice is done. Could that story be told really, really well?
Yeah,
absolutely, it
great.
Could. But
that's interesting. Do you want me to tell you how it went down? Like,
go for it.
Why I like this? I really tried to watch all the episodes. I really did. So what happens is Adam's killed, and they go back, and Man-at-Arms, her dad, Man-at-Arms, Orko, his mom, and the sorceress all know Adam is He-Man. Teela never knew. She was never in on a secret. So Man-at-Arms comes back and tells the king, hey, we lost He-Man. And he's like, oh my God, that's horrible. He's like, hey, where's Adam? And so he's like, sir, Adam was He-Man and stuff. And so the king throws a bitch fit and just acts out of character completely also, and just like he's a 50-year-old child who's an adult, and condemns you and how dare you. And then Teela, who is a hothead, but also what her reasoning is, she's like, go to hell because of your magic. But what really pisses her off is, I wasn't in on the cool kid's secret. No one, he was He-Man the whole time. No one told me. And he's like, the reason, and also in between, when the king is condemning Man-at-Arms, he's like, sir, he made us swear. He actually says he made us swear to not tell anybody. and so Teela, everyone's like, it's just shitty writing. It's shitty character development. Teela, everyone becomes an immature child because that's their reasoning, right? That's the type of character you have to be to get behind this stuff. And so Teela's like, well, I clearly wasn't good enough to be on the secret. I'm throwing a fit also. You know, to hell with you, to hell with magic, I guess, because she blames magic for whatever. And then
I would like to point out that like this is entirely fitting in light of Kevin Smith's John Hughes film Fixation, right? This does
Never
sort
saw
of this does see like every one of Kevin Smith's movies is based on John Hill's film.
Well, like how is like if he I can see that's sad because I never. Yeah, maybe I just didn't know that he had. If he stated it, but I had no idea because his work is not anywhere near on the same level as John Hughes, like even subtly. So if he's trying to ever homage John Smith, or I'm not sorry, not John Smith, but what's his name,
Hughes, yeah.
Then like Mallrats and those things, they're very different to me. Like it's a very different tone. They're like they're dirty adult comedy, heavily laden. Like there was that a lot in some of Hughes' stuff, like St. Elmo's Fire and stuff. But
for
the most part was the innocent. It was a lot of innocence written in, and it was subtle, and there was character development. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen Mallrats.
Oh yeah. But I mean,
there's not a whole lot of development. It's just more or less an entertainment show.
Yeah, and that's part of that's all part of the story because they're a grown ass man's look back at his youth. So they come from a lot of the same kind of place as what's his name, Quentin Tarantino's work, where it's as much about the thing itself as it is a commentary about the thing.
Well, it's as much about the guy who wants a lot of it is a dishonest interpretation of trying to be hip and like saying, here's my stuff that's hip and cool, and look at me do it better than the people who originally did it. And
yeah, well, the thing with Tarantino though is like Tarantino is such a fan of cinema that his whole Tarantino's
a fan of himself.
Well, of course he is that too. But what I'm saying is that he goes along. If you've ever listened to one of his
I've listened to
commentary tracks,
one
of his commentary tracks, he openly mentions who he's ripping off and encourage people to go check out those movies.
Yeah, no, and I get that.
I can't remember what it was in. I think it was in Pulp Fiction where there was one thing like, oh yeah, so this scene is out of Psycho,
right?
And you should stop this DVD and go
look those out because I guarantee you, what he's saying right there is an interpretation and strictly probably just his interpretation. If you hear him talk about anything, go look up him on Joe Rogan. Go look up Tarantino talking where there's not a script in front of him, he's just live. Mm-hmm. The guy is the biggest asshat that completely just interprets things his own way, and it's loose and it's inaccurate, and his ignorance just comes through horribly when he doesn't have a script or his whole production crew around him helping him look decent.
Well, I mean, one of the things to a lot of that,
the same thing happens with Kevin Smith. When I watched him, that was what maybe turned off to actually Kevin Smith. Because when he was on Rogan a few years back, I was like, Jesus Christ! You just I thought maybe he still had something, and was maybe going to surprise us and mature into something. And no, he doesn't have that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the thing I think when it comes to looking at some of that stuff is that these guys have had 30 years now in Hollywood. Right.
And I'm sure that's kind of bad
because we're that old. But if you go back to looking at like a lot of that stuff I'm talking about is from that's from 2006. That's a long time ago.
Well, he'd already been in Hollywood at that time for 20 years. So I mean, I believe that he is a fan of Hollywood cinema. But I think there becomes a time where what he wants to say about something is more important than the actual thing that he's talking about.
Yeah, that's probably true.
and I've seen that more than one time. And like the last time I watched him, I'd seen him in interviews, and I've heard some of his tracks and the stuff in between stuff, at the end of films, or the extra content on even Pulp Fiction and everything, or Jackie Brown, because I love Jackie Brown.
I hate Jackie Brown.
Yeah, there's a lot of shittiness about that, but there's a lot of like small moments that I liked about it, especially with anyway. Loved is maybe a little bit strong word, but I did enjoy certain parts of it. Anyway,
I did like how Greer got to kind of reassert like some of that. I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I like about Tarantino. He uses people, or he brings back people he was a fan of. Not only that, but he also people whose careers are considered just washed out. And to me that there's a little bit of integrity to that. But he hasn't been really doing that the same way anymore. Anyway, I digress. Back to my point was that he just him talking and just listening. It's like you can't. He was trying to make a point and he couldn't. I don't know. Backstep enough. Once he'd overstated things, and like maybe he was just talking too much about martial arts, and that's something he clearly doesn't know shit about. And he was trying to sound cool, maybe for Rogan, but it was horrible, and it was. I guess it was ignorant. Is I guess the worst thing. And I've heard him in other interviews, and I've been turned off to him over the last few years. Man, I'm sounding a real crabby son of a bitch tonight. Anyway, yeah, He-Man, too bad.
It's been a long time since we got around to just talking about anything.
No, bashing on the new cinema that's coming out. Yeah, let me think.
I'm always bashing on the new cinema coming out. That's me, man. I'm all about that. The spicy takes. That's like my whole brain.
I know. It's like there's like I'm not like trying to do this. Like it's not like I'm going out there saying, okay, what can I hate on? It's like I was fully ignorant and thinking, okay, because I'm not the hugest He-Man fanboy, but I know the difference between that and this complete dishonest rubble that he shoveled up to us.
Well, and I mean, like, okay, so here's part of
hard to actually, like, you want like it's about equality, right? This is not about equality anymore. It never was, but like the whole message, like, how can you even involve that anymore? It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's one of those things too. Is like people hate to say it, and you get a lot of hate for even saying it like that, but. The fact of the matter is there's nothing more unequal than pretending unequal things are equal.
Right.
And that's not trying to be mean or cruel. That's not trying to be mean or cruel on it. It's just the fact that, like, there are some things that, like, are the epitome of a thing, and you don't have to pretend they're not just because you're telling a different story.
Well, there's telling. I mean, it goes back to the whole. Pot and kettle, right?
Okay.
Where you eventually start becoming the whole thing that you're trying to not be. And it's like maybe if you just like let the subject be organic and be what it is, instead of trying to force your agenda on it and your thoughts, which is just it's so heavy. It's so heavy, like heavily just riddled throughout Hollywood and all the productions nowadays. Maybe if you didn't try to do that, Firefly. You would have equality, like just the truth of it, just the organic truth of the matter.
Well, and that's actually really an interesting kind of perspective on that too, because one of the things Thomas Sowell talks about in his economic studies of Jim Crow era
right.
in the South, and he said that Jim Crow is horrible.
Well, yeah.
There's no question about that. That's not even up for debate. This is just, obviously true. And yet, and this is not to justify anything, but that if you look at the statistics and the numbers in the Jim Crow South, like there was more jobs available for Southern blacks than there were for Southern whites. They were more involved in the workforce, and you're the dollar doesn't recognize racism. I mean, like racism can be real, but people still spend their money.
Well, that's
this his whole point was that, you know, it's better to not be racist, but a racist will still do business with someone they hate if they're getting a good deal on it.
Yeah, that's that's part of the whole. You know, I mean, unfortunately, race has been, I don't know what the right word is. Like, it's been so weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
The last, well, let's say 70 years, I guess now is what we're at.
Well, and it's there's truth.
There are so many arguments versus, especially the message nowadays, right? You know, the message nowadays that we have to rewrite. Well, the message nowadays, like Mike, the conspiracy theorist in Barry, is like, this is just BS to truly destroy this country. Like, it's just, if you look at things, that have gone on, like, we can get into that, but I don't want. So that's a divergent off of I don't want to get into, but
yeah,
there are so many. Like, I was watching last night. I was watching I, Robot. You ever seen that?
Oh yeah. Will Smith.
Yeah, classic Will Smith. If the racism is as it is, as it's been portrayed, especially the last, let's say 6 years, I, Robot, Will Smith himself, I can keep going on this, Will Smith was the height of Will Smith. Like, he wouldn't have been the biggest leading actor in Hollywood, through the 2000s, if racism is as it is in this culture as it's being portrayed the last 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at that, there's all these counter arguments to all the crap that's being shoveled on everybody nowadays. And it's a sad fact.
The thing that's so frustrating to me about the whole deal, right, is that, I remember, the idea that dude, I wanted to be Mr. T when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, like Will Smith, exactly. I want to be Will Smith, like like I want to be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And there's kids like that nowadays. Like, through the last 20 years, kids have been idolized Kobe Bryant. Like the whole thing. Like it doesn't. There are no lines that people want to draw because they want to make money off of, which they have. And we can get into that. It's very clear when a president of some BS money-making justice, crap is buying $1 million houses in Hollywood. There's one reason for things, and people don't care. Like, people are so afraid in this country because it just comes like we're so used to being the golden child. We're so used to being on the side of right and righteous.
Well, that
we're afraid to actually have a conversation about it.
Well, and this is one of those things that's so frustrating to me is you have these people that stand there and they say with a straight face that we can't get along, and I'm just like, but we want to get along. Like, I spent my entire life being trying to get along. And I get that, we're not all the same.
Like, it's not even a discussion. People get along because, unfortunately and unfortunately, people are imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And life is easy, but living is hard. And so we make our own issues. We make our own problems. Why? Because humans have ego, and the ego will just always for whatever reason it might be, is going to break down reason sooner or later at certain times. Just wait. That's just, you're tired. There could be a litany of things. But people get along, especially just for a country, just for a culture to have reached the point that it has now, where it's folding back on itself finally, much like Rome did. or any other draw conclusion from any other ancient civilizations.
But I mean, and what I really am trying to get at is not that people can't get along; it's that we're being told that we can't get along.
Well, yeah, because it's profitable, man. Like you have to if you make a problem, you then get to present a solution, right? The whole reason that you're arguing that this is a problem is because you are arguing that for a whole solution, or this needs to be changed, or whatever. You are presenting a problem. If you're presenting a problem without presenting a solution, then you're full of shit.
Right. Well, then here's something that Neil points up. He says that intersectionality just modernized segregation, and I have to agree with that. And getting back to one of the other things he said, that they're essentially Jim Crow laws applied to a wider scale, right?
Yeah.
So like one of the greatest to me, and people may disagree with me on this one, and I can see different perspectives on it, but I really think one of the greatest crimes of Jim Crow laws were anti-miscegenation laws, right? The idea that you can't marry who you want because they're the wrong color, right? Like that's criminal, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Because a white man could be every good as husband as a black man, and vice versa.
Well, any color, like there's
exactly. There's no like what makes a good husband, what makes a good wife is not tied to our skin, right? It's even deeper than that. You can you can
argue culture. I was gonna say it's not even tied to culture, but there are things within cultures that make things.
Yeah, but culture is flexible, though. I mean, you can. Yeah. I mean, like you can learn. I mean, I came from a culture where fighting was where like hollering and screaming, fighting was normal, right? But that don't make for a happy home. That's something that I've learned isn't good.
Right. Yeah. It's not the best form of communication.
It's not the best form of communication. So that's one of those things where culture is flexible. And we can learn and change all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, like you said perfectly, culture is learnable. Like it is malleable.
Yeah, it's malleable. And so there's no reason that we can't live together, right? In whatever form that takes, as neighbors, as spouses, whatever. And now we have the whole theme in society that says no, we gotta have spaces for this people and spaces for that people, and if you're this kind of if you're this particular variety, you can't even participate in the conversation. And
well, that's the money. Like that's when you know lies and dishonesty is being threaded everywhere, right?
I think so.
I mean, well, look, people who present like there's only a reason that in any form of reasonable society or civilization there are only certain small occasions where you present a problem without ever first discussing or in tandem discussing a solution.
And I would say that one of those is so you can start getting different people's take on it, right?
Right. Yeah. Like there's depending on the situations depend clearly. Like it's it's not cut and dry, but in all societies, okay, well, this dam's gonna break if we don't, do something about it. People don't just go there and say, okay, you idiots, this dam's gonna break. Get out of my way. They don't just there are reasonable, especially if there's a reason, if there's a vested interest and they want the best outcome. Otherwise, you're just stating issues and problems, and that's all you care about for your own ego. You want to be on the center stage and look what's going on because I can tell you this information, which I have no solution to. I don't care about, but hey, look at that. The sky is blue. I want it to be red. Ego comes into play so often, and then fear is just targeted and played with constantly. It's such a sad waste of energy, especially in our culture and society. And by the way, I'm back when old what was it? Soul came to me and we were discussing that stuff. Good guy. Sorry, I was gonna say that when you were saying how leading in, like how it was like the similar, but I wasn't fast enough.
That's fine.
Yeah, I missed my moment.
Missed your moment.
I did, which happens quite often. I had to put my tablet down because I realized it was at 10%.
I see.
Yeah. It's, battery's weird. I don't know. Sometimes that battery will last like forever. Like I can like whatever. I'm sure it'll probably last like all night on 10%.
So here's Neo says they keep on going about identity and representation, but all they're doing is encouraging petty narcissism.
You are doing
same prejudices they ought to be against. Now,
spot on. Completely.
Yeah. So
here, the petty narcissism. The petty narcissism is the heaviest thing to me. There, I agree. The same prejudices like that. That's to me. That's a given. We've talked about the ad nauseam so much lately, but the petty narcissism is the selfishness. Now I was talking about this actually the other day with Chris Lawton, Matt.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. He apparently cut his finger trying to make a sandwich. So good for him.
I've done that.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not gonna lie.
I said that's why are you trying to make a sandwich? Because bread is only filler and very low in nutrients.
I sliced my thumb on an avocado once. Well,
oof.
It wasn't the avocado that did the slice.
At least you're sacrificing for an avocado, which is a proper nutritional valued.
It was going on a sandwich. I'm not gonna lie.
There you go. Oh well. Screw you too then.
I love sandwiches. What am I gonna do?
You know what, dude? Sandwiches. Like I cannot keep any type of buns in the house because I love sandwiches. I love everything that has to do with plating, as they call it, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the point of petty narcissism. Sorry. The selfishness, the me first, and this is all perpetuated by fear and complete ignorance. And again, like it goes back to, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, or just take the idea and make it better. But our country, our culture is very, very, very heavily ridden with being the good guys, right? Being the saviors, being the ones of right and righteousness. And there is shit that's gone on in our culture, in our country, that hasn't been always 100% wonderful. And not to sound, but the person saying, well, what about them? Is that happens, and it's not an excuse. And when you're trying to achieve something good, because people are again imperfect. And so sadly so, that these things will happen. And the biggest point is to make sure that they don't happen, not to bring them up and say, hey, look at this, and use that as a weapon. And that eats at people, and so people get so jumpy that it becomes about like the whole of it just gets pushed aside, and agendas are built. And that plays onto the ego, and that plays onto the fear.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that we have, in a lot of ways, everybody wants to be the hero, and I think that's. I don't even think that's a bad thing.
Well, it's not a bad thing. I mean,
at all. But
there's
I
a
think
practicality to it, of course. But yeah.
But I think one part of it comes to is that I think there is a certain, at the risk of seeming like a jerk, I think there's a certain class of people that, and I don't mean class like, that's like, in the 19th century version.
I was like, wait a minute, you're trying to segregate my no. But there's equality. There's equality to individuals, I believe, and this is why I always say, like, this is rest his soul, John Shapp from quite a video and Superman. What happened to the whatever. Anyway, his film, great independent creator, but his argument was that the everyman, Spider-Man, which is Spider-Man, the everyman's a hero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love that premise, and it's a very marketable premise. But not everyone can be a hero. People can have hero moments and have heroic moments, but to be the one that answers it, like, maybe I'm just being, maybe this is wrong, maybe it's a tangent that's incorrect, but from my experience, to be the ones who always answer the bell, right? And this isn't like we all know that there are professions within every society and country that have, professions and whatever else that are more heroic just in the deeds that they do every day, and they answer the bell every time. Like a first aid responder or a firefighter or a policeman is much more, has the opportunity to be heroic every dang morning than me, who randomly might go out and save a kid in a river or save that stray animal that's up the damn tree. That might be a moment, but it's not like that individual. That doesn't make me a hero. I'm not saying, okay, every morning making a choice to get up and saying, okay, well, I might die or something, some sort of tragedy might befall me because this is my profession. I don't have that in me, I don't think.
Right. So. Well, and I think this goes back to actually something. I do think
it takes sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice along with that.
Yeah. I have a narrative idea that I think is true, but is what I call the heroism of the mundane. Right. I think there are routine, everyday things that hero stories teach us to do.
Right. Well, that's like culture. Like that's like in your culture too, right? Like that's what the culture strives to. We all strive to be.
But I think that there is but at the same time, and even with that in mind, I think there is a danger in believing or thinking that that's the same. That there's an equivalence, a direct equivalence between that and genuine heroism. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that that's one of the things that
there is a danger.
I mean, it's not that it's ingenuous,
right?
But it's a different level. It's like I was talking earlier. You don't call different things.
Well, it's like I always tell the rookie, don't be a hero, right? You're part of a team. Do the team thing. Don't do the selfish thing because you're trying to do good and impress everybody. And I think that falls in line with what you're talking about. You don't want to the selfishness can belie the actual true objective of what you're trying, what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
yeah, definitely. Okay. And I mean, and there's there are there's a difference between the idea of the heroism of the mundane. It is a concept of myth and metaphor. But it is not an equivalence with those who actually put their lives on the line in the same way. That's a way of looking at our actualization as humans. But we shouldn't undersell or diminish what else is going on. And I think that's I think that's a tendency we have.
And I wasn't trying to for the person who does make a difference. I'm not trying to diminish this, but I think that you have to maybe this is incorrect, but the idea I have formulated that is to be like being a hero. That's a a constant, and maybe this is inaccurate, maybe it's incorrect, but when you're making that choice every day, doing something heroic does not make me a hero. I don't think. It makes me maybe heroic in that moment, but I'm performing a feat of heroism. But like it's not like if I was going to write some great story like about Hercules or whatever like that, and people can be heroic in overcoming tragedy and hardships. I do recognize that, but I know that it's also diminished these days because people will say, oh well, it's been diminished. Simply because we live in such a softer society, and I can get into that a lot more. But that's mostly just simply, it's not a bad thing. It's mostly simply due to technology.
Well, and here's a thing that comes that Neo says. The issue is people want to be seen as heroes without having to actually be held to the standards of heroism.
Right. Yeah. The virtue signaling, which is
right.
I agree completely.
And I think one of the things too is that heroism is like humility. You don't get to self-apply it.
Yeah.
Right?
You try.
Somebody else.
You try. You can only aim for it, I guess.
Yeah. You can shoot for it. You can look at that standard. You can say this is what I want to be, but it's not up to you to decide if you land there.
Yep. Yeah. And I agree. And what's frustrating about that, Neil, is I don't think people are trying to be like I don't think they're trying to be honestly disingenuous when they are trying to be good and be heroic in a sense, and it is, and it becomes, and it completely is virtue signaling, which is starting to become freaking daily. Like I have Instagram where I post art and I follow artists, and there are kids on there where any little thing, and they are throwing it out there, trying to do that very virtue. It becomes virtue signaling, and it's ignorance in a very bad way, because no one's telling them, well, this is what this is, because now it's to do that would be wrong, and you're bullying almost, or the parents, who knows what where their stances are, but they don't maybe want to take the time, and they're just kind of proud of their child for doing that, which is a muddy water thing in the first place. But there's doing something and then it's putting it out there because you want to be cool and part of cool kids, and that's mostly what it is. It's putting it out there on social media to be part of the cool kids.
Well, and here comes back to a little thing. This might be a little hot take. So people out there, yeah. So here's a little ticket. So last summer, there was all of that, and it was totally virtue signal online. Superheroes wear masks, right? There was all of that in comics. It was on ads for movies where they're like, wear your mask, protect your neighbors from COVID. Superheroes wear masks.
Oh yeah.
But
sorry,
the thing about it is that heroes wear masks so you don't know who they are.
Well, yeah,
they're trying to appeal to people's vanity. They're appealing to vanity, and they're appealing to the neighbors know what a good person you are.
There's and again, I get the whole side of people wanting to do the right thing again and be safe and be considerate of others, right? Fine and good. I get that. I'm not gonna as much as I want to talk to somebody about the mask situation and stuff. I won't. That almost leads us into that whole new have you seen the craziness that's going on with the shot?
Oh my god,
that's being that's scary. What country do we live in, and what year is this stuff? There are NFL clubs that are going to fine their players starting at $18,000 a day, and you can't practice because it's not mandated by the NFL, but the clubs can do this.
Right.
And it's just all those simple things. Of course, now we have the whole new, this debates rage on about it. Which again, I want people to be safe and healthy, but the whole. We can get into it, how here's your mask, be healthy, but the message wasn't, well, here's a slew and range and list of things you can do to be healthy that will actually improve and ensure your immune system, starting with food.
Yeah, well, and
that gets into government money,
right?
That gets into a whole.
Yeah.
That would be the Armageddon.
And the whole crazy thing about it is it's just everyone's like, oh, get your.
See what he was saying about Superman.
Yeah, Superman and Wonder Woman don't even contract most human illnesses.
Right.
True.
Yeah. That's funny. That's not the irony is pretty funny there.
Well, and the thing about that that's crazy to me is it's just the number one thing you can do to get over, to avoid your chance of being sick from the COVID is not have the 5 comorbidities.
Yeah.
And 3 of the 5 of them are preventable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the thing is the thing with the most just the hilarity of.
And I'm a little shocked
if they imagined if it was carefully orchestrated. This is how I know it was carefully orchestrated. They never once mentioned healthier substance to consume. There was never a healthier lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
There was anyone who knows anything about the human body, the human biome, and the gut biome knows that you can consume things that are a lot healthier or a lot worse for yourself. And there was no mention of that because that's like they're not gonna. Can you imagine the shitstorm they would have brought down themselves from the multi-billion-dollar industry, which is the screwed up food industry and the medical industry within this country? My God, that would have never happened. So the dishonesty that happens right there is like that's key number one. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's corruption at its worst. Targeting people that are trying to do just all of it. Anyway, yeah. Heroes.
Yeah,
man. Superman wonder why they don't. They'll get sick. And Batman's so damn rich and smart that he would eat right anyway. He could afford to eat healthier foods that are very expensive. Right?
There you go.
See,
you ought to be writing for Marvel, man. That's some good stuff
shit,
right there.
Huh? Well, you don't want that's the friends that mix around a lot in Hollywood and with Disney there wouldn't really approve of that. So they would pray like there would be like your publisher or whoever, like if it was back in like the 90s where each team had a publisher, right? Or late 80s, that dude would praise you and said, "Holy shit, this is great! Let's bring it to the head, the X," and they'd say, "Yeah, we can't do this, and you're fired." Yeah. Well, antibodies don't exist anymore. Remember? That's the truth. Like when it comes to COVID, they don't exist. If you get it and you get clear of it, or if your body fights it off, you're just endangering other people.
Yep.
Sheesh. Reese, you bring it out in me, man.
Oh man, sorry. So I got a question for Neo. That I'm curious to hear his take on it because he's got some good hot takes.
Yeah, he's got some great ones.
Subject. So like today or yesterday or whatever it is. Maybe it was even last week. I don't know. The Cleveland Indians, right?
Yeah.
Announced that they were no longer the Cleveland Indians because they couldn't carry on the Indian name anymore, and so they're now the Cleveland Guardians. And apparently there was an ad to demonstrate all of this that had and say we're honoring our Native American citizens by taking their name off of our baseball team, and apparently there were no Indians in the ad that came out to talk about honoring the natives. So it was just a bunch of other people. But this comes on a list of mascots that have been removed, been struck because of their perceived insensitivity, including the Land O'Lakes girl, which I found out today was actually art drawn by a Native American woman. They struck off the thing. Aunt Jemima, who was a character created by
richest black woman,
the richest black woman in American history. Yep. First black millionaire, I think, actually.
Yep.
And all this kind of stuff. And the shocking thing, and the shocking thing to me about all of this is, like, instead of giving people they're actually hiding the multi-ethnic heritage of our country.
Yeah.
They're, instead of saying, "Oh, we're going to honor you by hiding you behind this curtain, Black history and Native American history." Am I the only one in the world that sees it that way?
Well, you can't control history or the future. The future if you don't rewrite history. Honestly, it lends to a whole new narrative, which is the dishonesty, which was trying to be people are trying to do right now. But anyway, I want to know what Neil says about that, because I agree, and Neil has some great takes. And thanks for joining us tonight, Neil. I don't think I've ever had any interactions with you, maybe once or twice, but it's nice having you on, man. I'm gonna grab some water.
Okay, cool, man.
We should probably maybe wrap up. I'm not sure. We got 10:15.
Yeah, it's getting late.
But, I'll be right back.
Okay.
I want to hear Neil's take first.
It's a must. It's a must.
Right? It's the show closer. All right,
This is unrelated. This is from his last little thing here. No.
Dude. Please don't get me started on global warming, all the different farmers and almanacs from way back in the day. Farmers, where the sea level was and wasn't.
They knew a thing or two about a thing or two. I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah, I mean the dad's right there, which is being dismissed. Anyway. Whew.
Spicy takes.
How about thank God for My Little Ponies. Of course, that was kind of brought back before the whole shit storm.
I think that's a big part of it. And also, I mean, it doesn't help that like Lauren Faust is like she dedicated to her craft in putting that together. Yeah. I mean, it was such a great. I'm not a huge pony fan.
You're a brony. Just go with it.
But I really respect the whole direction that took.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly like, dude, like there are people I apparently respect that are and were fans. So there we go.
One of the best things, I think it was my wife and my boy used to be big fans. They'd watch most of the episodes that came out. Yeah. And I think it was the season 5 opener was like basically a screed against socialism. where there was a boss of a little who was like the leader of a small village somewhere in the kingdom who had convinced everybody to give up their cutie marks because they could be more equal. And so everybody was giving up what made them special.
Equally cute across the board.
But it turns out that the gal who was in charge of it all was hiding cutie marks, and she was keeping them all to herself.
It was all her,
in like a magic cave, so she could wear whatever she wanted when no one was looking, and yeah. It's like,
that's dope.
She was the one. Everyone was equal, but she was more equal, and that's important to remember.
Slightly more equal, as it would be. That's awesome.
I'm trying to decide if I want to leave this one with a white background or not. I think I'm just going to give it. I think I'm just going to give it
a drop a fill in there and see how it goes.
Well, I've got several here that I'm going to end up giving different levels of gradient, shading gradient to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm just going to do that one. This one just
cool,
just like that. Well, let's see here. I don't want to do it that way. And then let's take this one here and
well, guys, I'm gonna sign off.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to get some work done yet on the comic before I go to bed. So I go to bed around. I try to be good and get to bed early. And Yes, good chit chatting, and you have a good show. Is it tomorrow night? You said is it next week or this week?
Next week, the 4th.
Okay, next week. Okay.
Here we go. Final note. We'll let Neil close the show out.
There we go.
Progresses for ignorant of history and tone deaf to the accomplishments of minorities to just assume every past portrayal of different race as problematic.
That's just it.
That's it. That is it.
It completely, it completely just minimizes and undermines all the good accomplishments that go along with struggle.
Yeah. And that comes.
That in itself is a huge thing because, like, nowadays, everyone's a theme is we don't want anything to be hard, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Everyone wants a safe place. We're afraid of challenges. We're afraid of difficulty.
And think about how that compares. I guess I'm not going to close the show out because I got one thing to say.
I'm sorry, Neil.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
That was
such a good note. But it reminds me of right, Booker T. Washington, right?
Yeah.
Man, he was born a slave. He fought himself up. He educated himself. He led generations of people. In the importance of education, in the importance of building ties to your community,
right,
and all that stuff. And but it was all hard work. It was all hard work. And he never shied away from talking about how it was all hard work. And that's one of the things I think that's one of the things we used to in this society honor hard work. And now even me, just soft. Just soft.
Yeah. I agree, you are soft. No, that is something that's quietly like, and there are a few I don't call them motivational speakers. Eric Thomas is one that comes to mind, who've been pointing this out for almost a decade. I think he's been talking for over a decade, so I'm not sure if it's been part of his speech and his message, but the same exact thing. Soft doesn't give you anything; it takes from it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's good discussions tonight, guys, and hopefully it wore me out so we can get some sleep.
Yeah, good talk.
Yeah.
So,
and hopefully I catch your show next week. I'm gonna try to start getting back up to the class to getting beat up. My elbow's finally healed, my wrist is healed. So
okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, guys.
All right, man.
We're gonna kill it. We're gonna call it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If people watch it on replay, hey, you can read Ideal Comics for free online at Webtoons or on our website, and some even at Global Comics. And you can join our Patreon and watch us make them and fix them and tweak them as we go. So, have a good one, guys.
Good night, good people.